Chesnoff and Mr. DeGuerin. We have Mr. Henderson, Mr. Bailey, and Mr. Milius, and Mr. Lewin.
Your Honor, we have the following stipulation. This is stipulation 73, which is People's 282.
282 is 73.
May I read the stipulation, Your Honor?
Yes, please.
The parties stipulate to the following. Terry Chavin, if called as a witness, would testify as follows. Terry Chavin is the wife of Nick Chavin. She and Nick began dating in 1986. They were married in September of 1988. Terry has known Bob Durst since 1986, as he was one of Nick's closest friends. Bob was always very cheap. When she and Nick would go out with Bob, they would alternate paying. Bob never gave them any gifts and did not buy them a wedding present or anything for their son when he was born. Nick and Susan Berman were also very close. Shortly after Susan was murdered, Nick told Terry that Susan had previously told him on multiple occasions that he, Bob Durst, was responsible for Kathy's death, but that Kathy was gone, they could not help her, and that they needed to protect their close friend, Bob Durst. Nick never mentioned anything to Terry about Susan's statements that Bob had admitting to killing Kathy prior to Susan's murder. Although Nick later told Terry that Susan had told him on numerous occasions about Bob's admission that he had killed Kathy, Nick did not believe it until after Susan herself was murdered. Even then, Nick did not want to believe that Bob was responsible for either Kathy's or Susan's deaths. In 2011, Terry was working as a broker and was trying to find Bob a brownstone to buy in New York City. There was one property that Bob was particularly interested in seeing, and Terry set up an appointment with the listing agent to see it. As they were on their way to view the property, Terry received information that the listing agent had injured her leg and would potentially not be able to meet them to show the property. Bob became enraged and started screaming that the listing agent was, quote, a fucking bitch, unquote, and worse. Terry was shocked by this sudden expression of intense anger, as Bob was completely out of control. A short time later, the listing agent arrived at the property, and Bob was completely calm and charming. The transition was startling, and it was hard for Terry to believe that Bob had gone from being so angry and out of control to being back to normal so quickly. Terry was unaware in advance that Nick and Bob were having dinner in Manhattan in December of 2014. When Nick came home from the dinner, he was clearly upset. Nick told Terry, quote, after we left the restaurant, Bob turned to me and said, and Bob kept dangling that carrot like, I'll tell you what happened, I'll tell you what happened. So finally Bob turned to Nick and said, quote, it was either Susan or me, and he walked away, unquote. Terry tried to get Nick to report what Bob had told him, but Nick wanted to, quote, keep his eyes closed, unquote, and did not want to betray his close friend. On July 19, 2015, Terry called DDA John Lewin and LAPD robbery homicide detective George Shamlian and related that Bob had said something very damaging to Nick after the December 2014 dinner. Terry told DDA Lewin and Detective Shamlian that she really wanted Nick to come forward On July 19, 2015, Terry called DDA John Lewin and LAPD robbery homicide detective George Shamlian and related that Bob had said something very damaging to Nick after their December 2014 dinner. Terry told DDA Lewin and Detective Shamlian that she really wanted Nick to come forward and tell the authorities what he knew, but that Nick did not want to betray Bob. Terry said that she was working very hard on Nick to convince him to come forward and that she believed that if Nick took the witness stand, he would not perjure himself. Terry then told DDA Lewin and Detective Shamlian the substance of what Nick had told her Bob had said to him after the dinner. So stipulated, counsel?
Court's accepted that stipulation already.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
We have another stipulation. This is, may I mark it as People's 283,
Yes.
and this is a stipulation 71 in the case.
Yes. You may read it.
Thank you. On March 10th, 2015, defendant Robert Durst was living in a condominium complex located at 2520 Robin Hood Street, Unit 1405, Houston, Texas. We will refer to this as Robin Hood. At that time, Stephanie Lawson, who we will refer to as Lawson, was the general manager, and Cynthia Harris, we will refer to her as Harris, was the concierge of the condominium complex. On March 10th, 2015, Lawson saw Durst going in and out of the building multiple times. That morning, Durst called Harris for assistance. Harris brought a cart to Durst's unit, and Durst had 5 carry-on bags which were brought downstairs. Durst loaded the bags into his Volkswagen, which was parked in front of the building. Durst had 2 cars at the condo, a Volkswagen and a smart car. The next day, on March 11th, 2015, investigators from the Los Angeles Police Department's Robbery Homicide Division, that's LAPD RHD, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that's the FBI, those 2 agencies were trying to locate Durst. They were monitoring Durst's cell phone pursuant to a lawful court order. The information obtained from the cell phone indicated that on March 10th, 2015, Durst began traveling east from Houston on Interstate 10. On March 11th, 2015, LAPD RHD investigators obtained an arrest warrant for Durst in connection with the murder of Susan Berman. On March 14th, 2015, investigators determined a call to Durst's cell phone to check voicemail messages was made from a telephone within the JW Marriott Hotel located at 614 Canal Street in New Orleans, Louisiana, the JW Marriott. On that same date, March 14th, 2015, LAPD RHD investigators asked FBI Special Agent William Williams, we will refer to him as S.A. Williams, to assist them. At approximately 3:30 p.m., S.A. Williams went to the JW Marriott to determine if Durst was at the hotel. Once at the hotel, S.A. Williams determined that no one under the name Robert Durst was registered as a guest of the hotel. At approximately 4:30 p.m., Durst was at the exterior of the JW Marriott near the valet parking area. Durst walked into the lobby area of the hotel. At the time, he was wearing a jacket and had a black backpack. Special Agent Williams saw Durst in the lobby, identified himself as an FBI agent, and called out, quote, "Mr. Durst," end quote, several times. Durst looked at Special Agent Williams, but did not verbally respond. Special Agent Williams asked Durst for identification. Durst stated he did not have any identification and had checked into the hotel under the name, quote, "Everett Ward," end quote. Everett Ward was the name of an employee of Farmers Marine Copper Works. During the Galveston trial, evidence was admitted that Ward had purchased a bow saw from Chalmers Hardware Store in Galveston, Texas on September 26, 2001. Farmers Copper Works still had that bow saw at the time of Mr. Durst's Galveston murder trial. The purchase order for this transaction, strike that. Your Honor, I have in my hand a stack of photographs. It's 20 pages. May I mark this entire stack as People's Exhibit 284?
Yes.
The purchase order for this transaction is shown in People's Exhibit 284, page 1. This purchase order was provided to Durst as discovery during his Galveston case. The business records from J.W. Marriott, shown in People's Exhibit 284, pages 2 to 3, establish that Durst checked into room 2303 under the name Everett Ward on March 11th, 2015 at 4:08 p.m. Durst was scheduled to check out on March 16th, 2015. At check-in, Durst paid $2,121.64 in cash for the room. Special Agent Williams arrested Durst pursuant to the Los Angeles Police Department Robbery Homicide Division arrest warrant and escorted Durst to his room. Legal searches were conducted of Durst's person, his hotel room, and a red Toyota Camry, Texas license plate number BCT 4784 in the hotel parking lot. The following is a list of items of note seized from Durst's person. The black backpack that Durst was carrying when he was arrested contained the following items. 1. A Texas identification card number 19084346 with a photograph of Robert Durst and the name of Everett Ward, and an address of 121 West 117th Street, Galveston, Texas. A photo of this ID card is depicted in People's Exhibit 284, page 4. The actual card is marked for identification as People's Exhibit 285. May I do that, Your Honor?
Yes.
And I have the ID card in my hand. It's on the screen, so I'm not going to put it on the wolf.
Right.
I will mark this as People's 285. The black backpack also contained 2 Florida travel books, which are depicted in People's Exhibit 284, page 5. The black backpack contained $1,730.25 in cash. It contained a J.W. Marriott hotel key for room 2303, and it contained a J.W. Marriott valet slip bearing the name Everett Ward, depicted in People's Exhibit 284, page 6. The following is a list of items of note seized from Durst's hotel room. A blue, black, and white floral pattern bag depicted in the lower right-hand corner of People's Exhibit 284, page 7. Although page 7 depicts numerous items laid out on the hotel room bed, the items were found in various areas of the room and then laid out on the bed by investigators. The floral pattern bag that's in this exhibit you're looking at, which is page 6, so the floral pattern bag contained the following items inside of it: 7 white envelopes containing $44,600 in cash, all of them $100 bills, as depicted in People's Exhibit 484,
284.
I'm sorry, 284, pages 7 pages 7. Cash is depicted in pages 7 and in pages 8. Two different photos of the same item. A clear Ziploc bag containing marijuana was also in the blue, black, and white floral pattern bag. So now I'm going to go to other items seized from Durst's hotel room. These are not now in the floral bag. These are other items that were in the hotel room. Prescription bottles bearing the name Robert Durst. A black duffel bag. This black duffel bag contained the following items: Robert Durst's U.S. passport, depicted in People's Exhibit 284, page 9. It's on the screen. The black duffel bag contained Robert Durst's birth certificate, depicted in People's Exhibit 284, page 10. An owner's manual for a Smith & Wesson revolver, which is depicted in People's Exhibit 284, page 11. And a rubber mask with gray hair, which is depicted in People's Exhibit 284, pages 12 and pages 13. The actual mask is going to be marked for identification as People's Exhibit 286 with the court's permission.
285? Are we on 6? ID was 285, okay.
May I display the jury, Your Honor?
Mask is 286. Any objection? That's by stipulation. Go ahead. Yes.
So we're back to item seized from Mr. Durst's hotel room. Seized was a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver depicted in People's Exhibit 284, page 14. That was in the jacket pocket of a coat in the closet. The revolver was loaded with 5 rounds of ammunition, which are depicted in People's Exhibit 284, page 15. Anyway, wait. Detectives removed these 5 rounds from the gun and photographed them. One of the 5 rounds was expended, had already been shot. Page 15 depicts the ammunition after it was removed from the revolver by investigators. The actual revolver, with the court's permission, will be marked for identification as People's 270, Your Honor? No, 287. 287. I'm going to mark for identification a envelope, evidence envelope, removing the contents.
And Deputy Washington inspected it?
He did.
Okay. You may approach the jury and display it.
I'm going to place it back beside the evidence envelope. Also contained or found, recovered from this hotel room was, excuse me, a map of the southeastern United States, including Florida and an outline of Cuba depicted in People's Exhibit 284, page 16. Also in the room were keys which unlocked a red Toyota Camry, which was parked in the JW Marriott parking garage. The keys are depicted in People's Exhibit 284, page 17. Also in the hotel room was a handwritten note with writing which was identified as a UPS tracking number depicted in People's Exhibit 284, page 18. Special Agent Williams later used this tracking number to intercept the red suitcase containing over $115,000 in cash, which Susan Giordano mailed to Robert Durst, alias Everett Ward, at the JW Marriott room 2303 on March 12, 2015. Photographs of this package and its contents were previously marked for identification as People's Exhibits 217 through 221 in this trial. Investigators searched the red Toyota Camry, Texas license plate number BCT 4784, connected to the valet ticket found in Durst's hotel room. The Camry is depicted in People's Exhibit 284, pages 19 and 20. The following is a list of the items of notes seized from the Camry. A Texas title application for the Camry in the name of Alfonso Paz, P-A-Z. After the searches were completed, at approximately 8:40 p.m. on March 14, 2015, investigators transported Durst to the Orleans Parish Prison. Counsel so stipulated?
Court accepted that stipulation already. Thank you.
And the people will call Detective Luis Romero. I'll provide these items.
This is our final witness, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you, sir. Please be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name.
Luis, L-U-I-S, Romero, R-O-M-E-R-O.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
We save the best for last usually.
Yes, sir.
Joking. So what is your occupation?
I'm a detective with the Los Angeles Police Department. I've been with the LAPD for the past 28 years.
And what is your assignment?
Currently, I'm assigned to Robbery Homicide Division as a homicide detective.
And for how many years have you been assigned to the Robbery Homicide Division?
For the past 13 years.
Okay. What is your role in this case currently?
I was a member of the task force assigned to assist Detective Chavin and Detective Camacho with the case.
And what happened to Detective Shamlian and Detective Camacho during the pendency of this case?
They both retired.
Okay, and then did you, yourself and your partner, take over the role of investigators on the case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And who's your partner?
Detective Grace Thornton.
And when did you take over the role of investigator on this case?
The beginning of May of this year, shortly before the trial started.
Were you, when did you actually come onto the case assisting Detective Shamlian?
January 7, 2015.
And what has been your role in the case, just generally? We don't go into the details of everything you did, but just generally, what kinds of things were you involved in?
I assisted with interviewing witnesses, wrote search warrants, conducted analysis of bank records.
Okay. And did you review the file in this case?
Yes, I did, sir.
And are you aware that on or about November 4th of 2014, that the LAPD had received the opinion of handwriting expert Lloyd Cunningham identifying the defendant as the writer of the cadaver note and envelope?
Yes, sir.
And were you aware that on November 19th of 2014, the LAPD had received the opinion of the handwriting expert Linton Mohammed identifying Robert Durst as the writer of the cadaver note?
Yes, sir.
And were you aware that on March 11th, 2015, the LAPD had received opinions from handwriting expert David Osborne identifying Robert Durst as the writer of the cadaver note and envelope?
Yes, sir.
And did you become aware at some point that the Jinx first aired on February 8th, 2015?
Yes, I did.
And that was a Sunday?
That's correct, sir.
And it aired every Sunday for 6 weeks?
Yes, sir.
And were you aware that on March 8th, 2015, episode 5 aired?
Yes, sir.
Were you aware that that episode depicted Sarah Kaufman turning over what had been referred to as the Sarah letter and envelope? In other words, a previous letter that Mr. Durst had written to Susan Berman and mailed to her that Sarah still had in her personal belongings.
Yes, sir, I did.
And on March 10th, did something significant happen of 2015?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
We had a telephonic meeting with Special Agent Perry, Detective Whalen, and other members of the task force.
And is that Agent Perry, the FBI special agent who testified in this trial?
That's correct, sir.
Was he an agent that was who was assigned to assist LAPD in portions of the investigation?
Yes.
He was helping you guys out?
Yes, it was, sir.
Okay. And at this meeting, what did you learn that caused you to do something?
We learned that since October of 2014, Mr. Durst withdrew large amount of money, almost $9,000 at a time.
How much?
9,000 or more, but less than 10. And for a total of over $300,000.
Did you say 300,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you learn anything else at this particular meeting?
Prior to the meeting, I did.
What's that?
That Mr. Durst had called Sarah Kaufman.
Okay.
Yeah.
And without going into the contents of what was said, did there become some concern to take other actions on this case after learning of the withdrawal of the money and the conversation that Mr. Durst had had with Sarah Kaufman?
Yes, sir.
And what type of actions did you decide you needed to take?
We decided to write a search warrant for his phone records, a pen register to verify where he was.
And what was the purpose of writing a search warrant for his pen register?
Just as a precaution to keep track of his location, just to see his movements as he make phone calls.
Okay. And did you get a court order for that pen register?
Yes, sir, the following day.
Okay. And did you obtain and review records with the assistance of Special Agent Eric Perry from the FBI?
That's correct.
Okay. Did anything else happen on that particular day of note, March 10th?
No, sir.
Okay. How about the next day, March 11th, 2015?
That's when I got the search warrant for his pen register.
Okay. That's when you actually got the search warrant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you obtain incoming and outgoing calls, including the cell tower location?
That's correct.
And did you learn where he was?
No, we did not, because his phone was had been turned off. The last 2 phone calls that we got was he was on the 10th freeway east of Houston.
Okay. So did you learn that on March 11th, 2015?
Yes, sir.
And you learned just that he was traveling east on the 10 out of Houston?
Well, we learned that he was his last location was east of Houston on the 10 freeway.
Okay, hitting off a cell tower that would be consistent with him being on the 10 freeway east of Houston.
That's correct.
All right. So on that same date, March 11th, did you obtain some other type of court order?
Yes, I did.
What is that?
I obtained a probable cause arrest warrant.
A what?
Probable cause arrest warrant, or also called Ramey warrant.
Okay. So you obtained a warrant signed by a judge to arrest the defendant.
Yes, sir.
And did you obtain that in Los Angeles from a Los Angeles County Superior Court judge?
I did.
All right. And did you take efforts to try to locate Mr. Durst while you had that search warrant, that arrest warrant in your hand?
Yes, the following day we had a sergeant from Houston PD go to his apartment building or condominium, try to locate him.
Okay. Where was he living?
2520 Robin Hood
Was that
Street.
called the Robin Hood Apartments?
That's correct.
You don't have a photograph. May I mark this as People's 288?
288.
Showing you what's been marked. People's 288. You recognize that?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
That's the Robin Hood apartment or condominiums.
Okay. And did you ever go there?
Yes, I did.
And what date did you travel to Houston?
Friday, March 13,
Okay. And what was your purpose of going to Houston?
to attempt to locate Mr. Durst.
And did you find him there at the Robin Hood Apartments when you went?
No, sir, we did not.
Did you learn that he had already fled that location?
Check to the.
At that point, it appeared that he had left the location, yes.
Okay. What happened next?
We remained in Houston until Saturday.
And when you say you remain in Houston, is it just you or how many people are there?
It was 4 detectives from Robbery Homicide Division.
Who was there?
Detective Mike Whelan, Detective Josh Byers, and Detective Blanca Lopez,
And yourself?
and myself.
Was Detective Lopez your partner at the time?
No, Mike Whelan was.
Oh, right. What happened next?
The following day on Saturday,
So this is March 14th now?
March 14 now, we had a wiretap on Mr. Durst's phone.
Did you obtain a court-ordered wiretap order signed by a judge?
One of the members of the task force did, yes.
Okay. And pursuant to that, were you listening in actively on calls that were being made from his phone?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And did you get information from Special Agent Eric Perry as to one of those calls being placed to his phone, checking voicemails from the JW Marriott in New Orleans?
We did, sir.
Where were you when you learned that this call was being made from the JW Marriott in New Orleans?
We were still in the Houston area.
What did you do at that point?
We rented a minivan and we drove from Houston to New Orleans.
All four of you together?
That's correct.
Did you stop for anything?
No, sir.
How long was that drive?
About 5 hours.
And as you're driving to New Orleans, did you have Special Agent Williams? Was he assisting in trying to track down Mr. Durst locally at the New Orleans JW Marriott?
Oh, let me backtrack. But before we left Houston, we already knew he was in custody.
Okay, so that happened. You had reached through the FBI, Eric Perry. You had reached out to Special Agent Williams, who had already found and detained Mr. Durst, and then that's when you guys rented this car and took off down to New Orleans.
That's correct, sir.
And when did you arrive in New Orleans?
On March 15, sometime around 1 or so in the morning.
Early in the morning.
That's correct.
I have a photo. I marked this as People's 288, 9. 39. Showing you what is marked as People's 289. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do, sir.
What is that?
That's the JW Marriott where Mr. Durst was arrested.
Okay. Did you, what'd you do on the 15th?
When we first got there, we started working on writing a search warrant for the hotel room. After that, we picked up Mr. Lewin at the airport.
Okay. And on the 15th, you were writing a search warrant for the hotel room. And this is for a search that was subsequently conducted by the LAPD, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You were aware that the room had been searched to some extent by the FBI already on the 14th?
Yes, sir, we already knew that, but we still wanted to do a search warrant.
Okay. So, did you interview him on March 15th, 2015?
Yes, sir, we did.
And that's the defendant, the gentleman I'm pointing to, who's seated here in court right now?
Yes, sir, Mr. Durst, sitting right there.
For the record, he pointed to the defendant, Your Honor?
Yes.
Can we get a foundation as to time? We have a date, but we don't have the time.
Sure. What time was it? You guys went to interview Mr. Durst?
Close to about 7 a.m. or so, sometime after 7 or so.
Okay. And where did you go to do this interview?
It was done at the Orleans Parish Prison.
And who was present with you when you went there?
It was Mr. Lewin and my partner, Mike Wellen.
Okay. So the two of you met Mr. Lewin there?
Yes, sir.
At the Parish Orleans jail or somewhere in New Orleans?
It's the called prison, I believe.
What?
It's Orleans Parish Prison.
Okay. And did you audio tape the interview?
Yes.
Did you have any contact with the defendant prior to turning on the audio tape?
No, I did not.
So when the audio starts, you were already in the room,
That's correct.
and all interactions with the defendant, Mr. Durst, began after you were already in the room and the audio tape started. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
And does the audio tape, does that contain all interactions you had with him that day from beginning through the end?
That's correct, except for when he went to use the restroom.
Okay, at one point, he had to use the restroom?
That's correct.
You allowed him to use the restroom?
Yes, sir.
And did you keep the audio recording going, or did you pause it at that point?
We kept it going, but he was at a different location using the restroom.
So the audio kept going, but he got up, left the room, used the restroom, and came back.
That's correct.
Did you, I have a photograph, may I mark this as People's 290?
Yes.
Was there a video of this interview?
There was a video, but it was not, it was done by the prison with no audio.
Okay, so what type of camera setup was this?
Most likely a security camera.
Okay. And so this depicted just a video of what was going on in the room, but no audio?
That's correct.
Okay, and you used your own separate recorder for the audio then?
Yes, sir.
So if you were to watch the video, it would just be no audio, you would just be watching whatever was happening visually inside the room?
That's correct.
Okay, and was this video made available to anyone in this case who wanted to watch it and dispute anything on it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have a People's 290. I'm going to show this to you. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what is this a photograph of?
That's the room that we used to interview Mr. Durst.
And is this a still shot taken from the video of this interview?
That's correct.
And is it a fair and accurate photo?
It is.
You see where I'm pointing this gentleman sitting right here?
That's me, sir.
That's you, okay. Who's seated next to you in the black jacket?
That's Detective Mike Wellen,
And who's seating to the left of him?
Mr. Lewin,
Okay, and across from Mr. Lewin?
Mr. Durst.
And Mr. Durst is wearing something. What is he wearing there?
That's a jacket that was provided by the prison staff.
Why was that provided?
He was cold at the time. He needed something to keep him warm.
Okay, so he got a blanket or a jacket?
That's correct.
Was he offered, did you offer him anything to drink?
He was offered some coffee.
Okay. Did he accept it?
He did.
And was he offered a break? Or did he request a break at some point? Mention a bathroom break?
Yes, yes.
Was there
Yes,
any
sir.
other breaks?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to mark for identification audio CD as People's 291 with the court's permission.
Yeah.
In the transcript 291A. It's been redacted pursuant to the court's rulings.
Yes. So we won't be listening to that today. How long is that audio?
It is
2 hours, 20 minutes.
So on Tuesday morning, if you begin playing it, you'll be able to complete that and complete your case and rest on Tuesday morning? Is that what your expectation?
yes, yes.
Then I think it's a good time to break. Agreed, everyone?
Thank you, Your Honor.
So before we, so please step down, Detective. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Again, we have a long weekend. It's a little bit extra long because we have, not only we have Friday off, but Monday we'll be doing other things. We won't take your time on Monday. You'll be coming here Tuesday at 9 o'clock. So we want you to be safe. We want you to wear your mask indoors, and if you haven't been vaccinated, good time to get it with the Delta virus around. So you want to be careful about that. Drive carefully. Don't discuss this. Everyone is going to want to know what you're doing. You're going to tell them the whole story. They don't have that much longer to wait. Don't converse among yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this case. Do not form or express any opinion on the case. Now, I understand one of our jurors has a very special birthday today. So I don't know if it's probably not appropriate for us all to sing, but we can. And you,
You don't want to hear me sing, Your Honor.
but on behalf of everyone, we wish you a happiest of birthdays and enjoy your birthday celebration weekend. We'll all return to this court. The jurors will all return at 9 o'clock on Tuesday for the conclusion of the people's case and the beginning of the defense case. So have a great weekend, everyone. Department 1 is adjourned.